Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. Thank you so much for joining me. So this weekend we are introducing our pullets behind me here. You might not be able to see them, but we're gonna go ahead and introduce those pullets to our existing flock. And basically what we're gonna do is we're going to just turn everybody loose and let them interact for the first time. So we chose to do this on the weekend because it can get a little bit crazy when you're introducing pullets or maybe any newcomers to an existing flock. Chickens have a very complex social hierarchy known as the pecking order, and basically the existing flock members will fight to hold on to their place in that pecking order, and then the newcomers are a threat basically, and they'll try to challenge the existing gals to kind of fight for a place in that pecking order. So it can sometimes get a little bit wild, so we're going to be standing by to make sure that nothing gets too crazy. So before we do our introductions, there's a couple of quick things that I wanted to share with you, just a couple of facts. So number one, always quarantine any new birds for a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks. If you're starting them from chicks, then chances are you're more than likely putting them in a brooder, or maybe they're separated with their mama. So, but I always quarantine new birds personally for a minimum of 30 days. Chickens are prey animals and they will mask symptoms of illness for as long as possible. So if you have a new bird that is sick, you should notice it during this quarantine time. Now our chicks, our pullets, have been separated since we got them back in February, so there's really no issue with having to quarantine them further. Number two, you will want to do a gradual introduction. You don't want to just one day, hey, throw everybody together and expect everybody to get along. It is not that simple. The pecking order is real, y'all. Note also on that point, never introduce just one bird to your flock. I always suggest doing a minimum of 2. The reason being is if you add just one chicken, because there is that struggle for the pecking order, this one hen may end up being the sole target of some severe bullying, and she could end up injured or even killed because the whole flock is pretty much just going to gang up on her at once. So the only exception to that, I would say, would really be if you're adding a rooster. If you have a cockerel or a rooster. Now I wouldn't add a cockerel that's maybe 8 weeks old, because those hens, they probably will gang up on him pretty harshly. But if you've got one that's about 6 months, maybe a year old, usually he can come into the flock with minimal issue on his own, because he is meant to be head of the pecking order. If there is a rooster in your flock, he will always be top of the roost. So, and many of the hens, they may be a little bit miffed, but they typically don't challenge him too much. We actually had our rooster, Archie. We brought him in last year, and he was about 6-7 months old when we put him in with the flock, and they really didn't challenge him too much, and he kind of was able to just come in and take control. So it worked out pretty well. Number 3, visual and auditory introduction is key. So once your pullets, your chicks, are old enough to go outside, just a couple of weeks old, weather permitting, then I usually will set them up in a little hut or a little cage with some food and water outside, and I'll let the main flock out too. And this allows everybody to kind of see but not touch, aka the playpen method. So the main flock sometimes is very interested, and sometimes they're not at all. But regardless, everybody gets yard time and everybody shares the yard. And we'll do this for several months. Now, once the pullets are ready to permanently live outside in their big girl coop, what we do then is we actually put them in a smaller coop and run next to the bigger coop and run back here, and everybody can still kind of see but not touch each other, and this allows everybody to still kind of get used to being around each other every day. They can't get a hold of each other. So, and then usually at about 18 to 20 weeks old, those pullets, in my opinion, are then ready to be integrated or introduced into the main flock. Now you can introduce pullets successfully as early as 8 to 12 weeks. I just like to wait till they're a bit older and a little bit bigger, because we do have a rooster and he will inevitably mount them. He's just so much bigger and heavier than they are, so I just like to give everybody a chance to be able to hold their own when we do the introductions. So now in the case of our pullets specifically, these are Buff Orpingtons. They are actually almost 25 weeks old, and I held off even longer in their case specifically because we did have one who jumped down off of something and injured herself pretty good. So there was some concern of her being able to hold her own during introduction. So I waited several weeks until she has no more signs of limping or anything before we're introducing. So we did wait a little bit longer than we normally do in this case. Now, number 4, when you put everybody together for the first time, I suggest letting your pullets or your newcomers out first. And if you can let them out into your yard, it's going to make it easier for everybody. They'll have some places to kind of get away, and you know, they don't have anything obstructing being able to kind of escape, because the main hens are going to just come in and they're not going to be happy. So and then you can let your bigger ones out. And then what I do from there is we just kind of monitor everybody, and you know, we make sure that nobody is harming one another. There is going to be some pecking, there's going to be maybe even some growling, some squabbling, and even chasing around as everybody's kind of trying to establish themselves in the new order here. So also make sure you provide some multiple feeders and waters in various locations, also in their new run, because your bullies will tend to kind of guard the feeders and waterers, but they can't guard everything at once. So if you've got multiple, and then you've got multiple roosts and things like that for the new gals to escape to, that's always going to be beneficial. All right, so now that we've gone over some pointers here, let's go ahead and we're going to get everybody out and we're going to just see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and let our pullets out first. I'm going to give them a minute or so, and then I'm going to bring the big ones out. So come on with me. Okay, so that was our head hen that just tried to make a pass, and you see the rooster kind of stamped it out, which is what he's supposed to do. But really, this is going smoothly so far. So we're just going to let everybody kind of mingle for a few minutes and see what happens. I hope y'all can hear me okay from back here. Okay, honey. Okay. Let's try some treats and see how we do, okay? Come on, y'all. Here you are. Here you are. Come on. Here you go, girl. Surprisingly well.
You got 2 out front flower beds.
Everybody's kind of hanging separate, not mingling too much unless there's a little bit of a clash, which so far Archie has been taking care of, which he's supposed to do. I just have to watch him because he can be a little bit harsh when he's breaking up some squabbles. So I just have to keep an eye on him too. I don't want him to hurt anybody. Unintentionally, of course. But I just put some treats on the ground, and we're gonna just give them a little bit more time to get acquainted with each other. But really, there's not any big issues going on, and this is pretty normal. You are gonna get some pecking, you're gonna get some squabbling, but you know, as long as nobody's killing the other, then you're doing good. And then I got Babes over here. She's not happy. She is our head hen. She is not happy. She's not gonna be happy. She can be pretty hateful sometimes to the girls. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, so we're just gonna keep an eye on everybody, and we're just gonna go from there. Ooh, buddy. All right, so now that everybody's kind of settled down a bit, not that there was really a whole lot of chaos to begin with, but we're going to kind of just continue to monitor, keep an eye on everybody. Usually your Buff Orpingtons and your barred rocks tend to get along pretty well. They're not super assertive, but I do have a couple of bards, especially the one making all the noise in the background. They can be pretty assertive. I've got a couple that are. So, you know, some flocks are more tolerant, while others can be a little bit more aggressive. It's going to depend on your flock dynamic. It's going to depend on what breeds you've chosen. Some of your breeds, such as your Rhode Islands, your Brahmas, your Wyandottes, they can be a little bit more assertive. And then some of your breeds, such as your barred rocks, your Orpingtons, you've got some Sussex, and those types of breeds are a little less assertive. But really, I just suggest doing some research and seeing what pairs well together. In the end, it's really just a crapshoot. So what we're going to do is this evening, we'll put everybody back up in the big run behind me, and we'll just see how they do. Now, one final note before I close this video is anytime you change the living quarters of pullets, or really any chickens, if you're maybe moving them just from one coop to another, you will have to retrain them again on where their new home is. So naturally, they're going to want to return to their own coop at dark, or wherever they were sleeping prior to the new arrangements. So, and obviously they won't be able to. So you'll just have to go out before dark, put the newcomers up in the coop for a few nights. You'll have to actually physically put them in the coop for a couple of nights in a row until they learn to go in there on their own all over again. Now, chickens are pretty smart, and they'll start putting themselves to bed on their own in their new coop in a couple of days, and we'll shoot a video on this too. In the meantime, like I said, we're just going to monitor everybody over the coming days, weeks after introduction. It's not something that's just like a one and done deal. We'll have to still continue to keep an eye and see how everybody's progressing. I always feel bad for my newcomers, especially when it's time for them to go into the coop at night, because then they have to also endure the roost bullies. But eventually things calm down. There's always drama on the roost, even when everybody's happy and getting along. But that's all for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed what I thought was going to be a little bit of chaos here, but it really wasn't. And be sure to tune in for the next one, and we'll show you how to train your pullets to use their new coop. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.